Good afternoon, East Brunswick. Like promised, I wanted to keep people updated on what's going on as close to real time as possible when it comes to the coronavirus crisis that we're in the middle of. I know most of you are glued to the television, computers, and probably are pretty much aware of some of the things I'm going to tell you about. If there's any silver lining, though, I was outside today and it's absolutely beautiful. Trees are starting to bud, and I can actually get a sense that we really are beginning to see some rebirth of the trees and flowers, and it actually looks beautiful. But with all that going on, I do need to get to the order of the day. And the reality is we do continue to see increases in the number of COVID cases. What I am not going to do is to continue to update you daily on the number of East Brunswick cases, because we all know that they're going to continue to go up every day. What I will, and they're going to continue to go up for the foreseeable future. The reality is we shouldn't really be worrying about those people who have already contracted the coronavirus, because those people are already diagnosed and they're already quarantined. Not that I'm not worried about them, I want them all to be well. But the problem that we face is that 4 out of 5, every new cases that are contracted are from those that don't know where they've got them from. They've got them from asymptomatic carriers, people who they themselves don't know are carrying the virus. This is the problem. This is the entire reasoning behind the CDC and the WHO guidelines, which call for social distancing and for limiting assembly. It infuriates me when I see scenes on television of kids partying down in Florida during spring break, or people holding parties at home because this is a glorified snow day. It infuriates me when I see the elderly just going out because they've got to get out of the house and really go traveling for no purpose. Stay home. For those who are displaying symptoms, please stay home. Call your healthcare provider and self-quarantine, even if you need to self-quarantine from those in your family. Now, fortunately, the state has begun to open up new drive-through testing centers, and you can find out where those are located by going on the New Jersey Department of Health website. Each day they're looking at opening up new sites. Hospitals and physician practices are beginning to get some tests. But please call first. Do not show up at the hospital or the doctor's office because we really don't want anybody with infections just walking into to areas where they could spread infection to others. Now, keep in mind, we are on completely uncharted territory when it comes to this particular pandemic. But we need to remain calm, we need to remain current, and we need to take the right precautions. Our country has been through crises before. Although this one maybe seems a lot different, but we've gone through crises. We had a pandemic back in 1918, not that many of you remember that. We had the H2N2, we had World War I, we had World War II, we've had the Depression, we've had recessions, and we are a strong people. But we need to heed instructions of those who are managing this crisis. The experience of other countries, which are several days to weeks ahead of us on the curve, allow us to anticipate exactly the reality is that things are probably going to get worse before they start to level off. Now, the number of reported cases are gross underestimates of the amount of disease, since we just now know that 80% of cases are coming from carriers who they themselves don't know have the virus. What we can go by is experiences in other countries such as China and South Korea. Once they had a handle on what was actually going on with that problem, their government gave very strict orders and people followed. Hospitals were built within days. But we as a country are a little different. We're kind of a renegade nation, and we like to think outside of the box. We like to try to be, to skirt the rules a little bit, and that's always been an advantage to us when it comes to innovation. But when it comes to problems like that, the ones that we're facing right now, we're really our own worst enemies. I caution everybody to please sit back and heed the instructions of those who are entrusted to your care. Now, the New Jersey state, our county, and our local government, everybody is really working hard on this crisis to make sure that we keep your health and your safety as our #1 concern. I speak to people in the state, I speak to people in the county, and people in other townships daily. They really are working their hardest. But again, we're in uncharted territories. But the one thing that is a constant is that we need to keep you updated because the information changes so regularly. And that situation is the one thing that's constant, is change. So I also want to take this time to thank all of the first responders and those people who are working on the front lines in healthcare. I mean, those are our heroes, and they're being challenged and they're being spread really thin. They're working with limited supplies, limited equipment, and they're putting their own lives at risk for everyone else. So please be appreciative and respect the fact that they are putting a lot on the line. It's a lot of sacrifice on their part. Now, I personally believe that the best course of action at this point would be a complete shutdown nationwide, as this is the only thing that seems to have flattened the curve in other countries and reduced the surge that ultimately will occur on our healthcare system that is not ready to handle it. And that's based on the experiences in other countries. Now, I'm not sure if that's where we're headed as a state or as a country. Clearly, that's been something that's been ordered now for California and for New York. But I do suggest that we all be prepared for that possibility. Now, when it comes to the township, I just want to keep you apprised of what's going on right now. First, the governor's office issued Executive Order 104 back on Monday. The township added to that with a proclamation that added business closures, which included hair and nail salons, barbers, massage and cosmetology shops, adult daycare, and daycare. The reality is that some of those things have already now been adopted by the state. The only one of the ones that I just mentioned that has not been adopted by the state is daycare. And that is one of those areas where we are in a little bit of a disagreement with the state as to who has priority over the authority to close down daycare and whether or not the township has that ability. In my heart of hearts, as a physician, I cannot understand how you can close schools because of the issue of social distancing and not do the same thing for daycare centers. I do understand the flip argument that there's a lot of first responders and healthcare workers who have no other means of daycare and won't be able to get to work where we really need them should they be called into place, and while our supply of those workers is so limited. I'm going to let that be resolved. For the meantime, since the governor's office has declared that those can be open, if any daycare center in East Brunswick wants to open, they could do so under the authority of the state of New Jersey. I suggest, if it were me, I would not put my kid in a daycare. I think that's risky. So for those of you who have the capacity and the means to keep your kids out of a daycare center, I would suggest that you do that. And for those that have no other option, for those facilities that are going to be open, I simply ask that you do everything possible to respect the CDC guidelines for social distancing. I will not send the police in to close down any daycare center. I just ask that you exercise an abundance of caution in the way in which you manage those centers, and for those people who are sending their kids there to exercise the same amount of caution, but I will not send in the police to override the governor's orders. As far as the municipal building here, at this time, it remains closed. The business of the township is going on. We have a limited staff which are working A and B type of shifts to make sure that we cover all of the departments. They can all be reached by email and by telephone. You can go onto the website. We also are prepared to work remotely should the order come for us to shut down, and that would have to come from the governor. If we were ordered to close down, then much of the information that may follow from what I'm going to talk to you about may be subject to change. For anyone who has bills that need to be paid, that could be done so electronically, or it could be paid through the drop box that's on the front of the main entrance to the municipal building. For people who have mailed in questions regarding extending due dates for property taxes or water or sewer bills or the mortgage or rents, let's just take them separately. For property taxes, we are required to collect property taxes, and that's per the requirements by state statute. Only the state can change that. And keep in mind that if we were to have the state change that, that does put the township in a very difficult financial position, as we too would have difficulty paying our bills and our obligations. As far as water and sewer is concerned, we don't make our own water. We order that and get that from outside suppliers. But if there is anybody that has a hardship with paying their water or sewer bill, please contact the Revenue Department directly. They will work with you. As far as mortgages, as you realize, that's out of our hands. And for that, you'd have to deal with your lender. For rents, you're going to have to deal directly with your landlord. But information on all of these things can be found on the township website, which talks about state-issued executive orders that deal with rent and evictions and foreclosures, and many of the issues that you've been asking about. The state does have and continues to put through legislation, and we will continue to update that legislation through our website. So please keep checking or rechecking the township website, because again, state and county will continue to put their updates, and we'll put that information on the website as soon as that happens. For Parks and Recreation Department, for now, unless there is a shutdown, the parks are open. I want people to go out and bike and walk or jog, but we have closed the playgrounds. We don't want children congregating. And, you know, I didn't think I'd have to really spell this out, but after we put that through and I gave that update several days ago, I go out and I see a bunch of boys playing right on top of one another, playing basketball. I mean, do I really need to spell it out? Social distancing is 6 feet. If you can't maintain that, you shouldn't be doing it. So as a result of that foolish activity, I've now had to take the hoops off of the basketball courts, close the courts, and close the fields, because I've got to protect people from themselves. The recycling center for now is open. Again, we know people may be doing some work on their house. They may be collecting or putting out more garbage than they're used to. That will be open. The Township's Park and Recreation Department will be putting out a truck for food donations at their location, 334 Dunham's Corner Road. The drop box will be open Monday through Friday for people who want to drop off food. It's going to be open from 7 in the morning to 3. If you're dropping off gift certificates or coupons, you can put that in the drop box that's on the Parks and Rec door. DPW remains open. As far as township council meetings, they will still take place, except we're going to do them remotely for the time being. There is a meeting that's scheduled for this Monday. The time has been changed from 7:30 to 7 o'clock. We want to be cognizant of the fact that the governor does have an order requesting that everybody be off the roads by 8 o'clock. We will be posting on our website a call-in number for any member of the public who wants to either listen and or comment at the public portion of that meeting. Finally, we want you to look at the township website and use that as a guide. We have a large and growing section of information on the coronavirus, which is, again, constantly being updated. There's links to the state of New Jersey, to the county, to the CDC, the World Health Organization. There's information on that for businesses that may have questions regarding unemployment or closures. We also have information on the coronavirus site regarding grocery stores and the accommodations they may be making for seniors or those with disabilities or chronic conditions. There's a complete list, and it's growing, of restaurants that are providing takeout and delivery, along with links to their restaurants and links for payment that could be done by credit card to decrease the handling of cash. And I'd like to kind of conclude with some good things. You know, in crises like the ones that we're experiencing right now, maybe many of you remember back to 9/11, they often give an opportunity for us to really see the humanity and the compassion in many of our neighbors and fellow Americans. I've gotten a flood of calls, a flood of emails from organizations and from individuals who really want to help at this time. And I'm going to use this update and future ones to give a short shout out to some folks who have been there when they weren't even asked to contribute. They didn't even ask to be mentioned. But I do think that they deserve recognition. The East Brunswick Chinese community raised in a matter of a few days about $10,000. It was organized by Board of Education member Li Wu Hong. That money is going to be used for gift certificates for groceries for those who are in need. The East Brunswick Democratic Organization is actually offering and organizing right now a pickup and delivery service for individuals that are seniors or those that can't leave their homes to pick up their foods or their medications. And we've received offers from many different community organizations. The Clergy Council here in East Brunswick has offered help. The Brunswick Memorial Homes, the Brunswick Square Mall has offered their space and their parking lots for any type of help that we may need. And I've gotten tons of calls from individuals and township businesses, many of whom are not working, many businesses who've had to close and are still offering to do what they can to help. So having said all that, let me close with the words of the American poet Maya Angelou. During bad circumstances, which is the human inheritance, you must decide not to be reduced. You have your humanity, and you must not allow anything to reduce that. We are obliged to know that we are global citizens. Disasters remind us that we are world citizens, whether we like it or not. Stay safe.